everybody, Prepper003 here today with another firearms oriented video for you, and this one is going to be the 5 top items to have for your SHTF combat rifle. Now, what do I mean by 5 items? Now, I know that when a lot of people talk about things for their combat rifles or their primary SHTF rifle, a lot of people start to think of something like optics, IR lasers, lights, grips, triggers, stocks, muzzle brakes, all that kind of stuff. This is not going to be that kind of video in essence, because right now you don't need to have all that extra stuff to keep yourself alive in an SHTF scenario. Service members for decades have done fine with just standard iron sight rifles like this right here with no frills or thrills, anything on it. So right now this is mainly going to be stuff that's going to be, in my opinion, key and essential items to have for your rifle after you buy it. So the first thing that I'm going to start off with is going to be what most of us would consider a key feature, and that is going to be magazines. Now, I think magazines are a very, very essential thing for your SHTF firearm and primary firearm cache or stockpile, whatever you want to call it. But right now, I would say, just to delve right into it, as I said in other videos, the minimum magazines you want to kind of get is anywhere from 12 to 14 magazines. Now, for some rifles, that might be a lot, but you want to kind of think of it as you want 2 full combat loadouts worth for your firearm. Now, what do I mean by 2 full combat loadouts? Combat loadouts can be anywhere from 4 to 7. Sometimes people go all the way to 12 and plus. But just you want to have whatever your main combat loadout is, you want to double that. Now, why? I know that a lot of us practice mag retention and things along those kind of lines, but it's not just retention of your magazines that can be an issue. Over time, magazines can break, base plates can break, the actual magazine housing can break, springs can wear out. So unless you're having a whole bunch of those spare parts on hand already, you might as well just have a spare magazine set aside. So having 2 full combat loadouts worth, or better to have 4 over a long period of time, just to maybe buy a couple magazines every month and slowly build up your stockpile over time. But just one thing I would like to say is just having those spare magazines is just something that's going to be key essential, especially in a long-term situation, because as I mentioned, these things can wear out, they can break, they can get damaged over time, and that yes, they can get lost even if you do practice retention. Now, this is going to be in the same topic, but right now it's going to be a subcategory. I still want to make sure that I get this out there, and that is to have some type of way of carrying your magazines in an SHTF scenario. Now, I know that a lot of people look at this and are like, well, that's tactical. I want to be gray man, blend in with no type of tactical gear or anything like that. Well, the problem with that is if you're wanting to keep yourself in a fight. Now remember, we're talking about a combat scenario to where you're actually having to actively defend yourself, your family, and your property with your firearm. So being able to keep your firearm topped off with spare magazines is going to be a key essential thing. Now, it doesn't have to be this huge tactical setup like you see here. All it is pretty much a carrier for 4 magazines and a tourniquet. That is it. There's almost nothing else to this. Very thin, you could hide this under a jacket. So having something that can actively retain your magazines and be able to quickly don and doff that is something that's going to be very key and essential for that. And I mean, I know a lot of people like to practice just throwing a magazine in your pocket, but one of the biggest issues with that is that whenever you have a magazine in your pocket, you go to draw it. Sure, you're standing very stationary on a range or something like that, and you're able to draw that magazine and get it in there every single time. The big problem with that is when you're actively moving around cover, moving through the woods, or you're having to actually move and shoot in these a lot of weird dynamic shooting positions, if you will, trying to work around cover, you can have these magazines fall out of your pocket very easily. They're not very retained unless you're wearing pants that are 2 sizes too small for you. So right now, just having some way to actively retain your magazines and to keep them in place is just going to be something that's going to be essential, especially if you're looking at a fighting scenario. The last thing that I'll mention with the magazines is as you see right here and right here, having some way to easily grab them and bug out with your stuff. That way you're not having to run through the safe, put them into a bug out bag or a duffel bag or what have you. Something that's already pre-planned, pre-set up, and pre-stationed where you can quickly just grab and go and bug out. You're not having to run all over the place to get different things and having to waste that extra time that could be essential in an SHTF bug out situation. And not all SHTF scenarios are these huge doomsday apocalypse situations. Wildfires can happen, flash floods can happen, things to where you only might have minutes to get your stuff and to get out of your house. So having your stuff already pre-planned, pre-organized, and having a pre-bug out plan worked out is something that's just going to be very key for you guys. Now delving on to the next one, because I really wanted to hit those points on magazines. The next one is going to be slings. Now, slings are something that, like you see right here, I know that there's different types of slings from single point, 2 point, 3 point. I'm not going to debate on different type of sling setups or different type of slings, but having some type of sling on your main firearm is going to be key. What you can do is it really helps whenever you're trying to carry your gear through the woods, or you're having to ruck all your stuff with a bug out bag and you're having to actively move over a large area at a time. Having that little bit of extra weight distribution from that sling is something that's just going to be remarkable as taking that weight off of your arms. Especially if something does happen and you have to now go into a fighting situation after you're going on these long foot marches. All of a sudden that extra weight is going to be giving you that extra weight distribution is going to give you a little bit of extra strength in your arms to be able to keep your rifle up and in the fight. Now, what I mean by that is if you don't have a sling and you're just carrying it with your arms or just supporting it with your hands and your arms, same thing pretty much, but what's going to happen is that you're going to be having a lot of strain and a lot of constraint on your muscles, and it's going to pretty much come to the point to where if you're after those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus miles that you just rucked, now all of a sudden you're having to bring the rifle up and get into a fight. What's going to happen is that your arms are going to be really straining to keep that rifle up. Even if it's a really lightweight rifle, it does add on to over a large period of time. Plus, there's a lot of other things you can use your sling for when it comes to dynamic use around barricades and things, but that's a whole other side subject into it itself. Right now, the biggest thing that I wanted to mention was just that weight distribution is something that's very key, especially for those of you that are planning to bug out in an SHTF scenario. The next thing is going to be kind of opinionated on me, and that's going to be forward grips. Now, I'm not going to get on to the specifics on angled, vertical, hand stops, but having some type of forward grip on your rifle is going to be something I think is going to be very key. It helps for bracing up against barricades, like something like this right here, where you can brace that up. I know that depending on the situation, you don't want to brace against a barricade and expose your muzzle, but alas, there are different types of scenarios where it can come in handy. On top of that, if something happens and your hand gets injured, you break a finger, or your hand gets shot or damaged or incapacitated to where you can't get an actual grip on your firearm, having some type of forward grip to press against your arm is going to be very key to keeping yourself into a fight. And right now, that's just something that I personally feel is something that and that's why you see almost all of my guns have a vertical grip on them. That's just my own opinion. But I think having some type of forward grip on there is something that gives you a little bit of, it gives you a variety of options, especially when it comes to working around cover and with using your firearm in a one-handed situation, rather than just trying to hold it up with one arm like this and trying to actively shoot, because you're just going to be adding a lot of strain all throughout this arm right here. As you can see, there's just a lot of strain already starting just from holding it up like this and trying to keep it steady. You're seeing there's just a slight amount of wobble already started. So if you keep doing this over a long period of time, if you're not bracing this up against anything, eventually your firearm is going to start drooping over that period. So that's why I think having some type of forward grip is something that's a key essential. Now, the last two. The last two, I'm sorry for dragging it on so far, but the last two are going to be the most important in terms of non-attached firearm accessory and items that you'll need. Well, items I should say, they're not really accessories, but that is going to be spare parts. spare parts for your firearm, whether it be an AR-15, an AKM, whatever have you, having spare parts for it is something that is going to be detrimental to your ability to stay up in the fight in a long-term SHTF scenario. I don't care how expensive the rifle is. I have, down at the shop, I've seen guns that are thousands of dollars have a small spring break, or have something break from user error, have something break from being out in the woods. All rifles have a chance of breaking. And right now they're mechanical parts, they're tools. They do break and wear over time. So in an SHTF scenario where you do not have access to those spare parts, you do not have a way of maintaining those parts in a, for example, like those springs, they're slowly starting to wear and everything. You can try to keep the upkeep with them, but eventually those springs are going to wear to the point where they need to be replaced. Now I know with some firearms like AKMs, the parts are a little bit different, but in the end you do still need to have replacement parts even for your AKMs, because stuff does break on those. You have cracks that can happen in the bolt face. You have stuff that can happen with your if you're using corrosive ammo. You can have issues with the springs and wires coming off inside of the trigger mechanism. So just having pretty much a spare setup, as you kind of see right here, for this is going to be an example for an AR-15, having a spare bolt carrier, having a spare bolt, having all of the trigger springs and everything in there, and the small springs that are going to be holding it together are just something that's going to be something that's really nice to have. So that's just an example here, just to give you guys some food for thought. But having spare parts is something I think that we definitely need to start having as preppers. The last one is going to be something that I just really want to recommend. It's the main reason why I decided to make this video in the first place. And that is going to be a field cleaning kit for your rifle. It astonishes me how many times I watch people's videos, or how many times I see them online, of people putting out a list for their bug out bag, and you never see a firearm cleaning kit even in there. And what do I mean by another thing about having a firearms cleaning kit, and why I mention it being a field cleaning kit, is I know a lot of people like to just have a cleaning kit where it's just a bore snake and a couple of brushes. Well, the thing is that you definitely need is to have an actual rod cleaning kit. Now you can have a bore snake, if you will, and that's perfectly fine. But having an actual rod is something that's going to be a detrimental thing, especially if you have an issue in the field where you have a casing stuck in the chamber and you can't extract it. You're even mortaring that thing on the ground to try to extract that chamber, and the extractor is just riding over it. Maybe you have a worn extractor, or that round is just locked in there. Being able to tap that round out of there with that rod is something that's going to be key. And I've seen it happen at the range. I've seen it happen at training courses. So it does happen, and it takes just even on your AKM berry rifles, it does happen to where you can get a little bit of sand inside the chamber, and that just causes a little bit of extra space in there, and it just locks that round in there. And right now, that's just something I think is just, right now if that happens and it's not extracting and your extractor is just riding over it, your rifle's out of commission. I mean, unless you get some type of somebody else's rod to stick in there, or you kind of go back home and get your own large cleaning rod or something like that. But again, you might as well just have it on you in the field. So that's just one thing that I would recommend having, is a field cleaning kit. Something that you actively carry in your bug out bag, or in your some people have like a A2 stock where they can keep it in there, what have you. But having your field cleaning kit on your person, or on your kit, if you will, as far as like an assault pack, a 24-hour pack, or the ruck. But alas, just having it available to you in that SHTF scenario is going to be key. And I don't mean to take this huge universal cleaning kit and try to shove it into your bug out bag. Right now, I would say at most just have a cleaning kit for your pistol, and then a cleaning kit for your rifle. But try to get, if you can, a field cleaning kit that's going to be broken down, something that's going to be semi-lightweight. They have just the key essentials to keep your firearm up and running in an SHTF scenario. So I really appreciate you guys watching. I really want to hear what you guys have to say about my choices for 5 essential items for your combat rifle in an SHTF scenario. Are there some things that you don't agree with, put it down below. I know that a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on the forward grip already. But like I said, I want to hear your guys' opinion on this topic and what you guys think. And if you guys carry a cleaning kit in your bug out bag or in your combat loadout. So thank you. And remember, those that prepare for today survive tomorrow. Have a great day, guys.